You know, all the air and opportunity to do the thing that you want to do. People like, all this pussy out here, man. Fuck all this pussy. If that pussy ain't making me no money, I don't want no parts of it. I ain't talking about selling. I'm talking about if I'm in a relationship with an individual and if me and her ain't making money together and we ain't doing nothing but having sex, then that's a waste of my time. That's a waste of my time, and it should be a waste of hers. When you were 20s and 30s and you just bumping and bumping and bumping and bumping, you know, and you having fun. But when you 40, 50 years old, we beyond having fun. Now we building a financial partnership if we even have a relationship. All that's going to have to come into one. You're going to have to be my financial partner. You're going to have to be my life partner. You're going to have to be my spiritual motherfucking partner. And then we going to be lovers. You know, you got to be all of them things because I'm going to be all of them things. You know, I'm not looking to provide for nobody's future but my children and my grandchildren. I ain't looking to save now individual, man. I don't believe God put me on earth to swoop out the sky with no cape on and save no hoe, man. I don't believe that shit. I don't believe that shit in no kind of way. I don't believe God put now individual out here, male or female, to take care of nobody else. I don't believe that. You know, people in life, in different parts of their life, no matter what age they is, eventually people started to look in the mirror and say, man, what's holding me back? Is this motherfucker that I'm laying in the bed with holding me back? Okay. That's when motherfuckers become exes. Get out of my life. Am I holding me back because of the decisions and things that I'm doing? Let me sit back and reflect on what I'm doing and what I need to change to make my life better. You know, because ain't nothing wrong when people want to go out there in the world and help people. Help people. You hear the word H-E-L-P? Help. Not hinder. Help. Helping an individual is trying to make someone become a little bit better than they are by either giving them conversation that can change their mindset to become a better person or financially giving them something and giving them one chance and one opportunity to do something better than they doing now. And if they don't do it, you gave them a chance. And then you distance yourself from that person. You know, I tell a lot of people every day, like these rappers, these entertainers, these football players, these athletes, any content creators, anyone that has the opportunity and is blessed to be pulled out of poverty or pulled out of situations where one day they were either going to be dead or in jail or do something foolish, and they be blessed enough to have more money than they ever thought and able to move away from the situation, don't go back, man. Take the ones you love with you and forget the rest of them folks, man. You know, you got to understand that if you try to save some people will bring you down. Some people tried to save people and them people brought them down, man. The biggest anchors in life is always going to be human beings. It's always going to be somebody that's willing to latch on to another person and always tell everybody in the world, well, he owed me this and he owed me that. You wouldn't be shit if it wasn't for me. What did you do any different than I could have done or I done to make my life better than you could have done? How can a person tell another person that you made a person but you can't make yourself? How can you make somebody rich but you can't make yourself rich? That don't make no sense to me. You know, you got so many people that make statements that don't make sense in no kind of way. How can you make somebody but you can't make yourself? How are you the reason that that person is doing this and doing that and doing that and living this type of life, but you not living that kind of life? It's because you didn't do it. It's because you didn't do what you say you done. Yeah, you might have been around that person. You might have been in transition with that person, but you didn't make that individual be none that that person wasn't destined to be, because that person didn't stop trying to be something better than they wanted to. They wasn't, man. People wake up and say, man, I'm not going to constantly become a motherfucker that's going to be a loser. I'm not going to stay in the same situation and go through the same bullshit that I watch people go through all their fucking life, and I know how it ends, man. I know how it ends. I seen the ending of this motherfucking story so many times, good and bad, and I know I want the good version, not the bad version, man. I know that one thing about life is you can't question the things that happen to you in life. You just got to deal with it and move on. Deal with it and move on. You can't never ever guarantee 100% count on no other human being. Period. The only person that any individual can ever honestly 100% say they can count on is themselves. And a lot of people end up having to test their theory when they put in situations in life that they can't control. People wake up every day and people go to doctors. People find out that they got diseases. They find out that they got disabilities. They find out things about their body that now that they can't control. They might need somebody to take care of them. They might need somebody to help them. They might have MS. They might start having dementia. Man, I'm not looking for somebody I can fucking screw. I'm looking for somebody that can keep me peaceful, man. I'm looking for somebody that no matter what goes on in life, they know I got them. I'm looking for somebody that know whatever goes on in life, they got me, man. Ain't no more playing the fairy tale games no more and acting like that life ain't real. I'm beyond that shit there, man. You know, I tell folks, man, people love when I go live because, man, when I go live, I go hard, man. You know, I always got a conversation for the world, and I always try to tell people the realest shit that ever come out of my mouth, man. Because I've been through so many situations and I've seen so many people make so many mistakes that they wish they could change them, but you can't. You know, I tell people don't never ever feel like that what you going through can't get no worse, because it can. I tell people, man, look, just because you going through something with somebody don't mean that it's the end of your life. Don't take your life. Don't take nobody else's life. If you was meant to be with somebody forever, you would be with that person forever. If you wasn't meant to be with them forever, you're not going to be with them forever, man. You can't buy love. And you should never, ever have to lower who you are to make someone stay part of your life. And if a person tell you one time that they want to leave, you should open the door and let them go. Because if a person ever tell you or give you a hint that they ready to abandon you and you ain't ready for that shit, oh, it's gonna fuck you up, man. It's gonna fuck you up. Because I've been through it. Man, I was married for 18 straight years, and one day my wife just told me, man, I want a divorce. And I don't know if she was bullshitting, but I told her, cool. And, you know, I think it fucked her up when I said cool, because, you know, it wasn't no argument, wasn't no why, wasn't no questions. But, you know, I say after about 2 weeks of me and her walking around in the same house that we've been in for 15 years and most of our kids grew up in, man, I was like, man, you got to go, man. Man, I gave her every dime I had, even vehicles, and told her, look, I'll go buy you a brand new house or furniture, give you some money to put down on another house, but you got to get away from me so I can find my peace. You know, and it took me 4, 5 months of me just sitting in my house and me just being by myself, walking around in my house and, you know, thinking about all the memories of when my children first did this and my children first did that and they first came through the door because this is the childhood home for my family. You know, and a lot of people want to say, you know, I went through my depression phase, which I think I did, but I didn't go through it to the point where I thought about doing nothing stupid. I just sit back and I did a lot of writing and I did a lot of reflecting on life, and I started having a lot of, you know, I started going to therapy a little bit more and more intense, and I started finding out things about me that I never knew about myself. And it made me feel good. You know, it made me feel good to realize that the thing that I was going through is not abnormal. You know, because I started talking to a professional, and the person I was speaking with, you know, she was like, people go through things. Life is going to be what life going to be, but you got to be able to deal with the stress. But then you get taught how, you teach yourself how to eliminate stress before it comes. You start thinking to yourself, how can I not put myself in a situation where I be stressful? And in my situation, I started thinking like, maybe if I start eliminating people that have me stressful about silly ass things in life, like my brothers, my sisters, my family members, you know, my kids, some of them that's grown, I started thinking like, every day that these people call me, and don't none of them ever call me with no good news. They always calling me with their hand out. They always calling me talking about some bullshit. You know, and then I was blessed enough to go through a lot of things. Like, I ain't never been a motherfucker that was in the streets and I was fucked up. Ain't now person in Nashville or any other state in the motherfucking world can ever say I've been no junkie. They gonna say he been a money getter. You know, but a lot of people that ain't seen me in the last year and a half because I went through my divorce, they think I don't change. And I have. I changed for the better, man. I changed for the best because it was a scary feeling to realize that when you ain't got nobody in this world that you can really trust like you could trust the person that you've been with for 18 years, man. You know, when you're a hood person or a person that's in them streets, man, the only thing that you got to always depend on is the home team. You know, I take care of the house and I take care of my wife and everything. If I get popped out, if I go through this, I can call home and she gonna make the bond. Shit. After wasn't no security at the house no more, shit, the streets was over with for me, man. You know, because I started thinking about all the time that I was in prison for 15 and a half years where I didn't get no money orders from family members and friends. You know, didn't nobody buy me no TV, didn't nobody buy me no radio, all this shit I bought myself. Getting my motherfucking money off the land, man. And I started thinking about that, and I started saying to myself, do you want to go back through that shit again, motherfucker? And I told myself, no, I'm good. I'm good. You know, I figured out another way in life. You know, I said, man, look, I always been the type of person that when it came down to bills in my household, I used to always walk in the house damn near every day and get my wife like $500-600. Here you go, boom. Here go five. So the bills was always paid, and then sometimes she might come in, you know, say, well, man, baby, can you give me $2,000? I'm going to go and pay the rent. I pay the mortgage and get this shit out the way. And I'm like, cool. You know what I mean? It was time that I'm probably gave her $4,000-5,000 a month. My bills probably wasn't number 3. And she worked every fucking day. You feel me? She worked every day. Good job. You feel me? But then a lot of times, like I was built into I was built into the mind frame of me and her was gonna build a financial situation with wealth through her. Because I've realized that a lot of opportunities that I couldn't get because I'm a convicted felon, she still can get them opportunities, and I can slide in with them opportunities as being married to her. At one point in time, I actually, she said, well, baby, if I want to make $200,000 a year, I need to go back to school for like 2 more years. She said, but if I go back to school for 2 more years, can you take care of all the bills? Can you do this? Can you do that? I said, I got you. And I let my wife at like 35, 36 years old, I let her go back to school for like 3 years straight, did not do no work. Only thing she had to do was just do her school work and deal with the kids because I was in the streets getting money, man. And it was so crazy that when she graduated, and this was amazing to me because I was happy for her because she achieved something in life on her own. I might have financially backed her, but she did all the studies, she did all the work on her own, and I give her her accolades. I can't take nothing from her. But that day she was like, babe, thank you for doing what you done, and this really belongs to you because of your sacrifices that you made and the motivation and the push that you gave me to go out there and get this. She said, because I would have been still sitting in the same job and I would have been cool with making $70,000 a year. She said, but I always knew that if I went and got these other 3 degrees, I could be making $200,000 a year and be working from home. But then you know what's so crazy? At the end of the situation, she graduated and she didn't actually start making the money until like about a year ago after she left me. Ain't that some shit? I'm like, damn, I thought we locked in for life, man. You know what I mean? Shit, can I get 30, 40% of that motherfucking money, you know what I mean, since you said it, you know? But nah, just joking and shit. I was happy for her, you feel me? Because everything I ever did in life, I did it to make sure that the person that I cared about, you know, they achieve greatness, man. That's why I say when you got peace in life, you don't have no regrets, man. You don't think about why I did this and why you don't think like that no more. You don't even think about it, period. You feel me? I wouldn't I'm just having a conversation. That's the only reason I said it, but that's why I also let y'all know that it wasn't no hating about it. It was an achievement that she achieved and it was a greatness that she deserved and she was meant to have in life. I wish her nothing but happiness in life. I swear to God I do. I don't have no hate for her. I had some anger for her at one point in time, but after I got over that and, realized that shit, life is what it is and, things are meant to be what they are. I've been good ever since, man. I tell you, man, it's something about going through a long period of life and going through different situations that make you realize that life is good, man. Life is freaking good. You know what I mean? Just to be able to have a conversation with the world and, interact with people that you don't know. And, people don't understand you got to have a certain, everybody can't do it. Everybody can't do it. People be like, you act like you sitting in front of an audience of 40, 50,000 people. I can do that. Because I feel like that a lot of people go through the same things in life and sometimes people scared to talk about it. I feel like a lot of people be going through different pains and struggles, and if more people talk about them things, people won't be embarrassed to talk about them with somebody else, and it might save somebody's life. It might save somebody's life. Because a lot of people get to the point where they feel like that, oh, I can't take it no more. Life is beating me down. Life has just took everything up out of me. Sometimes you gotta hit that pause button. Sometimes you gotta hit that pause button and take a deep breath and go, what do I really need to do to maximize my life where I don't get this much stress no more? If it makes you have to downgrade your life from the way you live it to bring your blood pressure down, then do what you do. If it make you have to downsize the vehicle you driving to eliminate that high car note, do what you do. If it take you having to distance yourself from someone that you felt like that you were gonna love until the last breath in your body, do what you do, man. Don't have no stress in your life that you don't deserve. Life gonna give you enough stress. Don't take on something that you can control. Control the stress that's in your life. You know, people don't understand the best thing in life that any human being, male or female, could ever have is peace. When you got peace in your life, you smile more, you laugh more. Some people say, you don't take anything serious. I take things serious. I just know it could be worse. Shit. Why am I going to shut my brain and my body down to where I have a stroke worrying about something that I know I can fix? And when I fix it, it should never be broke again. You know, I know that everything that any other individual has on this earth, I got the ability to go get the same thing that that person has. I know I do. I know to have an intelligent conversation, I don't got to have an argument with no individual. When you having a conversation, a lot of people don't understand that a conversation is two people being able to speak their mind and get their point across without being aggressive. That's when it turns into an argument. Who wants to argue with another person about something that both of y'all might be wrong about? That's why it's called an opinion. You know, but I try to not have conversations about things that I don't know. You know, I try to have conversations about things that I know about. And then some of the things that I don't know about, I'm not messed up with being wrong. But before I even have a conversation about it, I even put my 2 cents in. I'm going to do some research to make sure what I'm talking about. You know, and the thing about anything, it ain't never really factual unless you was there. Because it's going to be a story that's told by someone that was there. Or someone that it happened to. But like I told y'all, man, I enjoy talking to y'all, like and share all my content, run them numbers up, because you know that's how I get paid. I get paid by y'all looking at my posts and shit, man. I want everybody to go down my page and look at all the things that I talk about. And every night, late night, 12 o'clock, I call it my restart day. Every night from 12 o'clock to 1:30 in the morning, I get on here and I talk about life-changing moments, and I get at that, man. I try to make people know that life is going to be good, man. Until the next time you hear me, man, say, man, you know you just had a real conversation with a real human being and individual that on his road to redemption, man.